And hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host, Keegan, and this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And today we have a very special guest, and his name is Mike Forrester, and he is a men's coach that's going to help out a lot of men. Trust me on this one, you want to stick around and listen to this. And he's also got a Living Fearless Today podcast, and he's a host of it, and it's going to turn into something even more miraculous later down the road. But you're going to have to stick around and find out what exactly that is. So, Mike, how are you doing today?
Keegan, I'm doing great, and I appreciate you inviting me to join you and encourage both men, men, women, wherever we're at, wherever we've been. Dude, it's not where we're stuck. So, Keegan, I'm really grateful for being here with you. So thank you, my friend.
Of course. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you for just doing what you do, because it does take a lot for men to sit there and talk about mental health and emotions and stuff like that, and you're sitting there being a coach for that. So exactly how did you find yourself in the coaching position? Did you start out like being a coach for sports teams and stuff like that?
No, I wish that might have been a little easier. Honestly, it came from having the childhood that it's like you look at and go, this is not the way parents should bring up children. There was mental, emotional, physical abuse, being told I wasn't worthy, I wouldn't amount to anything, that I had no value, just the negative things that went along with that. And going until I was 40 years old, dude, having dyslexia and not being diagnosed until it was my wife and I taking two of our children to go be assessed and figure out what they were facing, right?
Oh, man.
I felt, Keegan, like I was the odd man out. Like I was special, but not in that way that you want to be special.
Yeah.
You drew the short straw.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not as special that anyone really wants to hold on to, too, right?
No. Dude, it was one that if I could have ditched it, Keegan, I totally would have, because it's like that becomes your identity, and then that's how you show up. Your internal beliefs, your feelings about yourself are the way you're expecting everybody else to see you, right? If you say, I don't belong here, you invite me over, Keegan, and we're having dinner. There's a lot of other friends of yours that are over. And if I'm thinking, I don't belong here, that's what I'm expecting your friends and you to be going like, Mike, he just should go home. He's not supposed to be here, right? So those kind of beliefs really became ingrained for me.
Okay.
The way that I put it is that I was a cross between Eeyore and the Hulk. Eeyore, like every day is raining, everything sucks, nothing's going my way, right? And I was ticked off about it. And so everything was rage, my home life, you can imagine 4 children, they're trying to avoid dad. They're not coming to me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I went through some coaching for business, I was brought up with the belief from my parents that, if you asked questions or if you failed, you were a failure. Dude, none of us want to be a failure, Keegan. I mean, that's like, we're all avoiding that like the plague.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it wasn't until I got to the point of, I had my own consulting business as far as for IT. I'm trying to figure stuff out because that's my family's livelihood. Yeah. It got me to a point where I was finally at desperation of asking questions regarding business. But it was kind of a scam in the way that I thought it was about business. But the surprise was it wasn't about the business so much as it was about me.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, dude, whether it was in personal relationships, how I am at home, I'm in my friendships, just all the personal side of life, or whether it's at work, whether it's a career, your business, whatever, the consistent thing is me.
The common denominator.
Exactly. It was like, dude, but I feel like it was almost one of those bait and switches, right? We're going to do business coaching. Oh, wait. all these things you're telling me are related to me needing to make these changes, but I have a choice. I can continue with my beliefs, or I can choose to address the root cause, the root belief that is then, putting me on that path to act that way or to be afraid. It was all those things that were showing up in business as frustrations and hurdles were then also things that were causing decisions and actions, for me as a husband and a father. None of them were good. I'll give you the cliff notes. It wasn't positive. So, that realization from the business coaching, right, was then, okay, the stuff that I've gone through, I don't want to continue feeling like there's something wrong with me, that there's, I'm broken, right? Or I'm not worthy, or I'm just freaking jacked up. And we're not talking muscles, by the way. Not that kind of jacked, but just messed up, screwed up. Dude, go ahead, Keegan.
Oh, I was just going to say real quick, could you give us an example of how your issues were directly affecting your business aspects? Because a lot of the time we like to think of the work-life balance as being totally separated, right? But if there's such a thing as I'm the common denominator and I'm causing all these issues, what's something that seems unrelated but was actually totally related?
Dude, it showed up in ways I didn't expect. That was the thing, right? You're used to you, and your decisions are just like, oh, hey, they're happenstance, or this is just how I operate. I am who I am. Yeah, that gets really far. So let's say you're my supervisor, right? We're working in corporate, or it could be retail, wherever.
Yeah. If
you're my supervisor, Keegan, and I'm working under that belief of I'm not worthy, I don't matter, I can't amount to anything, I'm going to be reluctant to go to you, hey, Keegan, I've been doing this, I'd like a raise. Like, there's going to be more hesitation for me to be visible and be successful at work, because when I'm successful and I do the projects well, then that brings me up on people's radar.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking, hey, I'm broken, things I do don't go right, you don't want to be seen, because when the inevitable, happens and you mess up, you're afraid everybody's going to jump on you. They're going to see the truth, right? They're going to see past all the masks, the veils that you put up of, hey, I can do this job, I'm competent. They're going to see you for the fraud that you really are. And, if you take that to owning a business, if you're the client, right, I'm coming to you for business, I'm not coming from a peer position. I'm coming almost from begging. Hey, Keegan, I'd really love it if you would, kind of give me some of your business, because I don't have that confidence. I'm afraid you're going to go, nah, Mike, whatever. Your quality, later. See ya. So it's a self-sabotage. Like, it's almost, you want to go, if we're trying to do a 5K race, right?
Yeah.
If I duct taped my legs together, how fast do you think I'm going to go?
Not very far or fast.
Exactly. And that's the thing. We handicap ourselves because of the beliefs that we have for things that have happened in the past.
Okay.
So if I looked at you, Keegan, and let's just imagine, we're let's say, wanting to go for a promotion, right? We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
And if you looked at me, you might go, hey, Mike, I believe you can get this, dude. Let's go and figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to support me. That support that we have for others, we are usually lacking that with ourselves. So we're more self-critical.
Yeah.
So if you looked at that position for yourself, rather than finding the opportunities, you're going to find the potholes and the reason why you're not qualified. you become almost your best enemy. You know what I mean?
Instead of best friend or best enemy, it's just the worst best enemy, it sounds like. Because I somehow laid out all these eloquent traps way beforehand, and I didn't even know about it, right?
Yeah.
So
you're doing things subconsciously to make sure, like, if you don't believe that you're worthy, you're going to find ways to prove that by, self-sabotaging and like pulling back. You know, if you need to submit for the job, by a certain date, you might wait till the last minute or not even put it in and find other things to fill that time. There's all kinds of ways that it can appear innocent, but when you look at the pattern and the path and just some of your beliefs that are, towards that opportunity, you'll often find that you're not showing up in the way that you best could, right?
Yeah, for sure. And let's see, if we were to use your Hulk and Eeyore, sorry, my lip ring kind of got awkward. It was making it hard to talk. If we take your Hulk and Eeyore reference, for example, the Eeyore would be the one sitting there and essentially saying, I'm going to stay within this cage, and whenever it's kind of getting out there, the Hulk is the one coming back and kind of mad that Eeyore's not out of the cage, right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of how I was feeling? Because that's kind of how I would picture it for myself. Because you're saying these things, and I'm kind of like, man, this guy knows me more than he knows me, but it's because they're underlying truths that are just emotional human truths, So I'm sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the Hulk aspect would show up, like, if I didn't submit, my application on by the date, I would be mad at myself for not doing that, but also not understanding why I didn't do that. So it's like, you're seeing part of the picture, but the anger is still there. The anger shows up. Hey, I didn't get the job. I knew I wasn't going to get it. Why aren't you enough? It's that self-inflicted rage. But then when I was married and had children, I brought that rage home. And as unhealthy as this is, it was the reality at the time.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know, if we go to work or, we go to our business and we show our manager, our coworkers, or our clients that rage, we're either going to be out of a job or be out of clients. They won't put up with it.
No.
Going home is a safer space, right? Your wife is less likely to walk away. Your children aren't in a position, unless they're, in their teens or older, to walk away.
Yeah.
So in a skewed, sick way, that was what I saw as the safe place to put my rage. And it wasn't a conscious thing. It was unconsciously done.
Yeah.
And it was still unhealthy. There were consequences for that behavior, right? But in hindsight, I can look back at it, Keegan, and go, oh, this was, why I came home on Tuesday and blew up at everybody and they were walking on eggshells, was because I didn't get that position. This didn't go my way. I'm mad at myself. And so it almost creates like an amplification, right? That rage continues to grow and grow and grow. And it usually blew up at home. Even though on the drive home, I'm, listening to whatever music, yelling, screaming, trying to offload it, it's still there because I'm not thinking about the consequences. And like, I'm almost navel gazing is the best way to put it, because I'm just so focused on the fact of you're not enough. And this happened yet again. And until you change, you're going to get more of this. So why don't you quit, being insufficient? And it's like, this is great information. I'm getting nowhere because I don't know how to change this. So,
So you realized that there was a change that needed to happen, but you didn't realize what the change was, and so you were getting mad at yourself for not realizing it, right?
correct. I was mad about not having a path to get out of that position. So it's almost like knowing you want to get out of quicksand, but not knowing how to get out of quicksand. It's like, oh, I could pull on a vine. Only if I knew that.
Yeah.
And so...
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's one of those things that it's a lot like drowning too. If you're actively drowning, you may not know that you can sit there and relax a little bit more, and you can be a little bit more buoyant. But in the moment, you're going to be sitting there freaking out. And anger, I find, is very volatile in that sense too. Is that it can seem to just be caused by anything, but
Right.
whenever you're dealing with the Hulk, anything can be the thing that takes it off, right?
Totally. Going back to like your analogy of drowning, right? When you're a lifeguard trying to save somebody, your intention is to help them. That person is panicking. And if you put me as that person that's drowning, that's panicking, I'm putting, even though I know, hey, this person's here to help me, I'm in that state where logic is gone. And so I'm putting the lifeguard at risk in that situation, even though they're trying to help me. And so it's one of those of, it didn't matter that my wife was there to help me. It didn't matter that my children were innocent. That rage was just like drowning. I'm drowning in life, not knowing how to get out of the mess that I'm in and feeling like it's my fault and I'm inept. I'm not equipped. I'm not worthy to have a life that's different, and being ticked off about it all the time. So it's not a safe space, but it's not a space that we're confined to live out the rest of our life, right? It's a prison that we believe that we have. And if we don't give ourselves permission and forgiveness to start working forward into something else, Keegan, that's where we're relegated to. But it's not a place that we don't have a choice to move from.
Yeah. So how did you start to change your beliefs in that essence to essentially not bring the Hulk home? Because not bringing the Hulk home is going to make the wife happier, the kids happier, and make everything happier in the long run, right? Or as the saying goes.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing that I had backwards, Keegan, is that I looked at, if I could just have a happy marriage, I would be happy. Like, I looked for the things around me to fix, that would then fix me. It's the complete opposite, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like, if I have a car that has a busted engine, I can make it look as pretty as it wants. I can put new interior, new paint, new air conditioning, whatever. But we're still at risk of breaking down because the engine has a problem in and of itself, how it's, functioning.
Yeah.
And that was what the problem was. So from that business coaching that, kind of was helping me realize, hey, the problem is within me. That then gave me the choice to say, do you want to work on yourself, and do you actually want something different? Like, are you willing to step into this and do the work? Not perfectly, but are you willing to do the work consistently and be frustrated, but continue forward,
Did you realize in the moment that you were giving yourself permission for setback?
I wouldn't have put it in that wording at the time. But at the time, I just knew, who I was and where I was, what it got me. It wasn't changing, right? That was a constant. And so if I wanted something different, and I wanted not just the external things, Keegan, I wanted to feel different. Like, dude, I'm in my own head 24/7. I hated feeling how I did about myself. There's nobody that likes that self-hatred, that, that vitriol, that it's like, you suck. Nobody wants to be in that headspace.
No.
But that was what I was relegated to at the time. And I was like, well, I want something different. And if I knew the answer to it, if I had the keys to a different life, I would have already, unlocked it. So it's like, well, I have nothing to lose. Let's give it a try. And so it was frustrating because it was so different. And so I just had to give myself space, if that makes sense, to feel awkward. It's almost like golf. Dude, have you ever played golf? Like
mini golf, yes. PGA golf, no.
Okay. It could be golf. It could be fishing. There's any number of activities, right? It could even be running. If you don't know how to do it right, when somebody comes in to instruct you how to do it the correct way, it feels awkward. And that was exactly what it was, dude. So you're telling me I need to, act this way and not the way I have been? Why? And as I began understanding the logic behind it, and then, being willing to be uncomfortable with the changes, that's when I then saw things change. My wife had played small because I was so insecure, right? I mean, dude, if I'm not feeling like I have any worth, of course I'm going to be insecure.
Yeah.
So as petty and childish and unhealthy as it is, when my wife was successful, I saw that as a threat. I'm threatened by my own wife. I mean, dude, it's like, it doesn't sound good. It's not good. It's like I'm married to I'm married and I'm threatened by her. Okay. That makes no sense. But that was the place my head was in. And so many guys are caught up in that same thing unconsciously. And it's like, what do you think you're going to get out of your wife? She's going to feel unsafe and, just like, what the heck are we doing here, buddy? So when I started healing, then my wife was able to be successful without me feeling threatened. And she totally prospered and just became successful and amazing in who she is. It's like, dude, I thought I married you here and now you're up there. Sweet. Bonus for me.
Right.
But it wasn't a benefit that I thought about going in when I was feeling like garbage. And the thing is then, as she feels safe, the marriage, the part that we, were trying to focus on before we were in a healthy place, the marriage now is a side benefit, becomes vibrant and strong. So it's like, dude, changing ourselves changes everything around us rather than trying to change everything around us to make us content. It doesn't happen. You're still stuck with you. So it's like, you just got to start with square one.
Yeah. And some of us really don't like being stuck with ourselves, but there's really not a way out sometimes, or so we like to think. Or I know myself, I really did think that way too, that there was no way out. I was not worth anything. And I mean, I still struggle with that stuff sometimes. And being a podcaster, I definitely deal with imposter syndrome, which definitely feels awkward sometimes. And one of the things that you said, though, was that you made logic out of your emotions, in a sense, whenever you thought to consequences. And I think that that's a great way to put it, because emotions are usually logicless, right? There's usually there's usually nothing to them besides, I just feel this way and that's why. But it sounds like you were able to actually pull out the whys and the hows and dig into the logic of it. And that's where I know myself tripped up And that's where a lot of people trip up with emotions. So how did you get over that first step of making sense of emotions?
Well, let me first say, Keegan, I still mess up. Like, there's times where it's like the behavior and the beliefs, they're still there. You're just you become aware of them sooner, and then you know how to like step back from it. One thing that I've done, like I spoke about earlier, like, looking at somebody else. So if I'm having, thoughts and it's like, hey, I'm not showing up the way I want, I'm really just frustrated. I would look at it and say, like, okay, if Keegan was going through this situation that I am right now and felt the way that I do right now, what would I, as his friend, tell him? Because again, what I'm going to tell myself and see myself and believe about myself is totally different than how I feel about you.
Yeah.
It just, for whatever reason, we want to see ourselves with like this dark filter. It's pretty common, man.
Yeah.
So I will look at you and go, okay, Keegan's facing this. What would I tell him? What would I encourage him about? What am I going to look for in his past that has, shown, instead of a path to failure, repeated patterns, what's helped him on the success that will, help him get to the point he's wanting to go? Oh, okay. We wear blinders on the success part, and we're really attuned and sensitive to finding the negative things that will build that belief to say, like, I'm not enough. I'm never going to get out of being financially, behind. I'm never going to, have the relationship that I want, the career that I want. You know what I'm saying? You're going to look at those things in your past to find the proof and the evidence to say, like, yep, this is exactly what's going to happen again. No. As far as, trying to detach the emotion, dude, it took a long time. And it's just one you got to remember for yourself. From whenever you were born, you probably had messages along with what you're believing that have gotten you to now. So let's just say, hey, whether you're 25, 30, 35, 40, 50, whatever, you've had that length of time to get these beliefs. So they're set in there pretty solid.
Yeah.
The first, 5, 10, 100, 1,000 times, it's going to take a while to remove that etching there that says, like, hey, Mike, you're not enough. You don't matter. It's going to take a while to change those beliefs, and the actions are tied to the beliefs. So, if I don't want to be angry, okay, what's causing me to yell at my kids? What's triggering me that I'm just so ticked off? I came home from work, my kids aren't listening. What's causing me to go in that direction? And to look at it and go, like, okay, I'm feeling like they're not respecting me. Is that really what they're doing? Okay, why is the respect such an issue? Does it change my identity? Does it change who I am? Does it change anything else? 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. It's, depending on how old the kids are, man. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
A 2-year-old's behavior is going to be different than a 17-year-old behavior.
Big time. If they're arguing over the same thing, then there's a bigger issue.
Right. And so it's like, one of the hardest things is, just giving ourselves the grace, stepping back, looking at what's going on and thinking through it, rather than just our life. We've been, knee jerk, they're not behaving, I'm going to blow up. Right.
Yeah. In today's society, especially for men, it's difficult to not really be able to have all the answers and be able to have that second to step back. Today's world, everything is here now. We got to do it. And you're talking about taking that moment to take a step back and literally breathe for yourself and figure something out. So how do you suggest that, especially men going through this, how do you suggest that they catch themselves and really ask that question of like, what am I doing and what is it going to get out of this? Because I know for myself, whenever it comes to anger, like you had said, it's really catching it sooner than letting it go through its course. So how do you catch it?
In the beginning, the easiest way is to look in hindsight. It wasn't that the way I behaved was without remorse, right? I wasn't just a jerk. You know, I knew I didn't want to behave the way I did with my wife and kids.
Yeah.
But it was afterwards that it was like there was that remorse, that sorrow, that, gosh dang it, I didn't want to show up in that way. Take it a step further. Not just bemoaning the fact, oh, I did something I didn't want to do, but look back at it and almost watch it as a third party. Okay. So let's say I've gone off at one of my children. What did they do that, you know, was that trigger that then my response was there? Have I behaved in that way before? Is there something going on that I'm just responding to and is going off? Was there something at work, you know, or before then that primed that trigger that they just happened to be the last straw and I blew up? A lot of it in the beginning, again, is hindsight, which then equips you with knowledge for the next time something occurs, because it's not like one situation and it never happens again. We're going to see that pattern. And so the more that we're aware of it, the more likely we are to catch it. Now, I said likely. It's not a guarantee. You're becoming sensitized to something that you've been numb to or unaware of. So it's like to expect yourself to go like, hey, I now understand this. Boom, I'm never going to have a problem. Unrealistic. You know, I wouldn't place that on you. Why am I placing that on myself? Because we expect perfection. I should know better. You do know better, but it's going to take a while to change the belief, to change the behavior and get a different outcome.
Gotcha.
But just like with anything else, man, I mean, if I'm, you know, driving or, you know, playing golf or, you know, playing a musical instrument, practice is what gets me there to where I'm able to do things more consistently and at a higher level. And so we need to, you know, be ready to continue to review stuff. And what did I do different? Why did this set me off? Why didn't I get set off this time? Ooh. You know, you're looking for proof of different behaviors based off of, you know, the situations and everything. You're just analyzing. You're curious about what's going on. And sometimes that's going to uncover painful stuff that's gone on in your past that got you to that point. Yeah. But you'll find that stuff is then also oftentimes triggering other reactions in areas of your life. So it's not just a one-to-one, it's a one-to-many. Oh, hey, I figured out this. Now this changes all these different areas or gives me an opportunity to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Because it's kind of like, let's say, adding a drop of like Mio into water, right?
Yeah.
You found out the root cause and oh, hey, look, it actually goes all over the place and not just that one drop like I thought it did. And you said something about being numb to those situations and stuff, and it actually really made me think about something. And it was whenever I was getting my emotions back online, it was a lot like, let's say, a limb falling asleep and then coming back online. The weird, fuzzy, tingly feeling like, oh, hey, what's this? Oh, yeah, it hurts, but it shouldn't hurt. But it's strange. And did you experience that with your emotions as well whenever you started to regulate them a little bit more and be more sensitized to them? Was it harder to feel them fully, or what?
It was one of those that I had thought my emotions were a weakness. And so I had just tried to cut them off. Plus, it was one of those, if I did feel those emotions before, Keegan, it just made things worse. It was one of those of, when you're telling yourself, hey, you're not enough, you're not going to amount, you're not worthy. If you have emotions in there, dude, it just continues to take you further and further and further down, and to feel, less valuable. You know what I mean? Like you're less of a man, less of a human even at that point. But as I began to, give myself permission to feel the emotions and see what the triggers were and everything, it then brought up more questions, more insights about what had gone on that had gotten me that point. And it honestly sucked, because I was like, oh, I really went through that? Okay, this is where I got that. And the problem is, like, you can change you, but the things that have gone on, involving you, you can't change. The people that have been involved, you can't change. Sometimes it's hard, and it's not like there's stuff that, like, hey, you deserve that. Man, there's so many things that happen that we don't deserve. Yeah. And it's like, but you have the responsibility of dealing with it. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it, the accepted thing that should have been done. Yeah. But it's like, okay, I got in a fight with my mom. She was, fully physical and, did all these things. Does it mean that was the right way of parenting? No. Yeah. But I can either choose to keep reacting to that, or I can, look at it and go, nope, she was, she herself is hurt. And just as I was reacting, she was reacting. Because, dude, the thing that was really hard, Keegan, was I was wanting forgiveness from my children, because I knew that wasn't my intention with them, wasn't to hurt them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And yet, if I'm looking at my parents going, you suck because of what you did, it's like it put almost like this, two different aspects to it. I'm wanting to be judged on what I meant to do, and then I'm judging on what was done. It was really challenging to come to the point where it was like, I'm going to forgive my parents, but there's also a boundary where it's like, I'm not putting myself in that position, nor am I putting my children in that position to be hurt, or susceptible to that. But understanding this is who they are, and unless they decide to change, this boundary remains in place. I didn't forgive them for them. I gave them forgiveness for me, because I didn't want to carry that anger and that rage and that frustration. You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. That rage, and go back to the Hulk. I didn't want to continue to feel that in me. So it was like, okay, this is now how I can continue to heal and grow and have the life I want. And if they're not safe, then they're not safe, and keep them on the outside. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm inviting them continually in my life to hurt me again and again. But it's like, hey, this is what's gone on. This is the way it's been perceived. If they choose not to see it, not to, respond in a, accountable way. Okay, cool. That's on you. I've done my part. So,
And that's one of the things that I was kind of wanting to ask you about is men and their relationships with parents can definitely be one of those things that, like you said, it shaped your future. It shaped all of your experience. But now that you've grown and healed and everything, how do you handle your men clients that want to reconnect with their parents?
it is a person by person basis, right?
Yeah.
Some men want it, some men don't. I'm not the one to tell them, hey, this is wrong, this is right.
Yeah.
You need to make that decision for yourself. If you're like, hey, I don't want them in my life, they're totally unhealthy, I don't feel like I can heal with them involved. Okay. Understand that that does mean, okay, they're not going to be able to be there and see the change and, show up in certain ways.
Yeah.
Okay. It's almost like, if you decided not to eat meat, you know what I mean? Like that, there's going to be some things that are good. There's going to be some things that are bad, maybe. It's a decision you need to make. Like my parents have both passed away at this point. When my mom passed away, my dad did not tell me for 2 months. That was really kind of weird, but that was his choice, right? I did not find out my dad had passed away until a year later when I received a bill in the mail for him for services he had gotten before then.
Oh, wow.
Now, what led up to that was my dad didn't want to have conversations other than stuff that was where he felt he was confident when he was, in a previous career. So it was like, Dad, I'm not interested in that stuff if that's all you want to talk about. And it was very out there. I was like, I'm sorry, and he chose to be in a place that he felt he was whole, like he was a man, right?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a safe conversation. I was like, this is not something I want to talk about in like, hey, I'm glad you did that in that life. Well, it's just not something that I want to be exposed to in our conversations. And they all revolved around that. And it was like, there wasn't anything outside of that of like, how are you doing? What are you doing? Here's what the grandkids are doing. Nothing along those lines. And I just came to the realization, it's like, okay, Dad, I'm the one reaching out to you. I'm trying to have a conversation of something, of a father-son. This obviously isn't interesting you, because I was open and direct with him and just said, hey, Dad, this is not a conversation topic that I'm interested in. I want you in my life, but you talking about this other aspect, I'm sorry, Dad, I'm not going to go there with you. And so, he would just choose to not have conversations. And I was like, okay.
Oh, man.
And so it's unfortunate, but it's one of those, Keegan, I came to the point, it's like, I, like any other son, want to hear my dad say, I love you, I'm proud of you, you're a fantastic man, right? We want that affirmation from our father.
Yeah, yeah.
My dad was not in a place to say that. And so it was like, I can either chase that and react and go, woe is me, going back to that Eeyore side and going, I'm not whole, I'm not content, in who I am without this. Or I can go, he's given me what he can with who he is, and he doesn't want to change. It's up to me to take responsibility and accountability with myself and see who I am, almost self-affirming, right?
Yeah.
To say, I am the man. My dad's just not in a place. He feels like he's a boy. And so he's posturing to say, like, these things that I did give my life validation. Okay. So it was up to me to step into my place. And for some men, it's a different situation, a different environment, but the results can still be one where they're left feeling like, they're not man enough, without that. And so, it's often up to us to say, I am a man.
Yeah.
And to be okay with, hey, my dad hasn't affirmed me. Cool. You know, that's stinks. It's, you know, I'd rather see you affirmed, but if it's not going to come, it's not going to come. You can't keep waiting for it.
Yeah. I'm really sorry that you went through that yourself. And I just got to say that you are the man, you know, and on his behalf, I'll say that I'm proud of you. I love you. And I got to say thanks for doing what you do for all the other men out there in the world, because you being in the position you're in almost take on a fatherly figure yourself for some of these men, right? And it's one of those that you can actually give a sense of healing on that father wound aspect as well in that regard. So I'm sure it's got to feel really weird sometimes sitting there being the dad or dad-like figure. Yeah. And I mean, it's just got to be a maze to walk through sometimes. Maybe not a maze, but maybe not even a labyrinth, but you seem to walk it extremely well and with a sense of poise that is refined as well. So it's just one of those things that you really encapsulated a whole lot of what it is to be a real man, because a lot of men nowadays, or at least whenever I was being raised, it was being happy, angry, hungry, and horny, you know, like.
Yeah, I got that message as well, Keegan. So yeah, I think that was kind of one of the teen doctrines, right? That we went through that manual. So yeah.
Yeah, and so you're sitting here and telling people that it's okay to have these different emotions, and it's something to really sit there and just, you've honestly flipped the script so hard on yourself that it seems like you've really reinvented yourself to the point to where you may not realize that you still don't give yourself the credit. And that's just that's just speaking from an outside perspective at this point. But I just got to say you're doing wonderful. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I love it whenever we have guys come on the show, and I love it even more whenever they're dedicated to helping other guys get feeling better, because we were those, in a sense, we almost got left behind by ourselves, and then it's kind of like we get mad at ourselves for leaving ourselves behind in the first place.
Yes, straight out.
But whenever we're sitting here and we're always trying to better ourselves, but not beat ourselves up for not being better and all this, it can be confusing to really figure out what feeling is the right feeling, you know? And you even said that whenever you're doing something that is new or correct, it's going to feel awkward. So getting these feelings back and having it feel awkward and stuff, and then implementing all of this into active life with your clients, like, what are some of the things that surprised them whenever they're working with you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And let me just say thank you, Keegan. I really appreciate that. And there is still stuff that I'm growing through, man. Like, you know, forgiveness for like what I put my kids through. Understand, they have forgiven me. One is still working through it at some level, depending upon where they're at that time, right? Which is totally understandable. But it's one of those of, you know, like, we can beat ourselves up pretty bad. And so there are still those times where it's like, it's easier to deflect. Almost like if you said, hey, Mike, that is a great shirt. Oh, this old thing? Dude, we've seen that time and time again, right? But the thing is where it's like, you know, you can struggle with the fact of, hey, Mike, yeah, you've done a great job in changing things around. Dude, there's still you know, some of those things can be challenging, where it's like those old habits, dude, it's a process that continues. It's not like I'm done and I'm like, hey, I've arrived. It's like, dude, you see me in 5 years, Keegan, I'm going to be a different person. My family's different. I'm different. The relationships are different. Dude, like, you know, we had talked about this earlier, Keegan, before we started recording, was where I saw myself was in a studio apartment. It's dark. I'm in a chair. The only thing that's lighting up the room is a TV because I was divorced. This is what I had expected. This was the life that I saw that I deserved down the road, was that I was isolated, alone, hated, abandoned, just left to my own devices because that was what I deserved.
Yeah.
Dude, when you go from something like that to what I'm living out now, where that marriage is vibrant, alive, she's my best friend, where my adult children call me up and go, hey, Dad, I've got this going on. Understand? It's not all the time. It's not with all things. There's some things where they're just like, hey, Dad, I need some help with this. Cool. I'm grateful to be in that place where they want to call. They want to talk. Yeah. You know, I have a relationship with my 3 grandchildren. Dude, that's something. Keegan, I never thought I was going to have that. You know what I mean?
Too cool. That's
so
way too cool.
Yeah, dude, it is, because it's like the way that I look at things now, Keegan, is we talked about, you know, how we get the impressions from our parents, right? The way we behave, way we think is passed on from them. Yeah. Keegan, because of the work, you know, the self-work that went on, that my wife has done as well, we have now changed the way our children see themselves. Like that legacy that would have gone on for generations, because it's one parent passing it on to the children, passing it on to grandchildren. Yeah. Dude, that's changed. It's not perfect. I mean, it's not like they're walking on water, but it's not the same. Like that dysfunction is not like the thing of, here you go, you know, the unwritten thing on the will is, you know, all this stuff, the family dysfunction. It is great to see that the cousins hang around with each other. They want to be there with each other, that, you know, the kids are calling, that they interact with each other. It's like, dude, it is the family life that I never experienced. And I didn't think that I could ever be a part of. So it's like, what you see today as what's available to you is not necessarily the truth. You know what I mean? The past isn't necessarily the painting for the future. And that's the thing where it's like, if you believe that things can be different, you're willing to put in the consistency and work on it and be patient and forgiving of yourself, dude, the future is open, right? You got to be accountable. You got to take responsibility. But, dude, the benefits, oh, my God, I never thought this was what I would be talking about, much less experiencing, Keegan, you know? Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's way too cool to be having the family get-togethers like that, because I'm close to my cousins, and boy, oh boy, let me tell you that, well, I don't live in the hometown. I wish I did, kind of, sort of. It's a complicated mess, you know, how moving away from family is. It's like, I want to be there, don't want to be there, want to be there, don't want to be there. Yes. But it's something that my family has been rather extended in a weird way. My family's just weird in general. I'm my own uncle of sorts. Don't ask me how.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those of, that tree didn't quite grow the way I think it was intended to go.
Well, no, well, I mean, my grandparents eventually divorced, and then my mom's dad, my dad's mom ended up marrying each other after I was already 13. So I'm my own uncle by marriage of sorts. It's a weird dynamic.
It's okay,
but it
bro.
Works. But it works.
It's one of those of, hey, that's the experience of family. Family is not neat and organized. Family's made up of people.
Yeah. And I
dude,
think oh, go ahead. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good, man. I was just going to say, it's like, dude, they're made up of people. And you know what? I'm fallible. You're fallible. So it's like, it's all fallible people, but it's just dependent upon, do we take responsibility? Are we creating boundaries? Are we forgiving? Like, just not repeating the dysfunction that we've experienced and accepting that kind of dysfunction that is damaging for us. If, family's messy, but it's also amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing in what it can do, especially whenever it works as a unit.
Yes.
And that's the thing, is that a lot of people look at families and think that this role is supposed to play only this part, and that's not really how it goes. And I think that we just don't give ourselves enough slack, and I think that we maybe put expectations on too much of other people. But like you said, everyone is totally different in their own ways and regards, and there's no way to sit there and put a blanket statement out there like I just did and have it be accurate whatsoever.
Well, and I think if you look at, like, one thing that I think many of us dread is like a holiday dinner, right? Because it's like, we all know who's going to be the one to cause the problem. They're going to say something, get the rise. It's almost like a play. Everybody has a role in that play, and you're expected to show up, play that part, and, it just continues. It's on repeat. Somebody rewound it, played it again. Different holiday, same result. And it's one of those of, when we change, that can be the hardest place to show up as the healthier version, because it's going to put people, the rest of our family, in a position potentially to be like, hey, Keegan, you've changed. And now that you've changed, you're almost like a mirror, and you're showing me stuff that I really don't want to see. And, if I'm seeing it, do I want to take action and change to become healthy as well? And so it can be threatening, the changes that we make, stepping out of, like almost like that assigned role, not behaving and thinking in the way that people have known us. When we start to become healthy mentally and emotionally, it can be a threat to the family dynamic. So,
yeah. And I kind of always thought of that, well, maybe not the family dynamic, maybe more along the friends or just acquaintances. Acquaintances will probably be the better term here. But whenever healing is going on and change is occurring and they find it to be threatening, it's usually because they don't have power over that person anymore. Right. And that can really throw a lot of people for a tizzy, because suddenly they don't have influence over someone, and that would get them gleeful or maybe solve some of their problems or who knows what. But usually if someone is mad that it's that someone is changing for the better, it's because they were either using that person or just don't recognize what is actually going on, So
well, it's one of those of when you have addiction, right? Yeah. How helpful is it to stay in the same relationship with the people that are addicted?
No,
it's not. Yeah, it's like, whether it's alcohol, drugs, whatever, man. For video gaming, Keegan, I can look back, and the people that when I was using video games to medicate and to be like my addiction, when I started to step out and heal and was like, hey, I'm not going to be online as much because this is just fueling, like the thoughts and everything that was going along at that time. Dude, it was not one where people were like, yeah, I'm proud of you, keep going. Oh, by the way, I'm going to stay here and keep gaming. It was like, why are you doing this? Like, that doesn't make any sense. We're okay with you being who you were. I don't want you to change. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it can be like you talked about, the acquaintances, the friends. It can be family as well. Some will, some will come up and go, hey, that's cool. I'm glad to see you changing.
Mm-hmm.
Others are going to be like, dude, I don't like what you're doing. And I think this is really stupid. And I'm going to call you out and try and, almost push you back down into who you were. And it's like, no, that's not where I want to go. And that can be the hardest place to stay true to the changes and the growth that we're experiencing.
Yeah. And I think a good bit of advice to anyone out there and they feel like they're being pushed back in the box by their family members or whatever, especially family members, is to just be the jack in the box. You're going to pop back out. Just keep on doing it,
Yeah. Yeah. And finding new friends that do appreciate your growth.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? Because when you're healing and growing, you're not going to be the only one that's going through those challenges.
Yep.
I'm sure that, people listening, it's like, dude, you can look at Keegan and I, and as we've changed, some relationships have supported us. And those are the ones that when we kind of go back and it's like, oh my gosh, am I doing the right thing? What's going on? This really hard. They're the ones that, rather than pushing you down, pull you up and help point you back to that North Star and the goal and the dreams that you have, that it's like you're working and doing this stuff that sucks at times. The reason why you're doing that stuff is because you want something different, and they're the ones to point you back in the right direction.
Yeah. And we really need to find those good friends, and they're hard to come by. But so whenever you find one, you got to make sure you hold on to them, but not too tight.
Yeah, no choking them out.
Yep. We are nearing the end of this episode, Mike, but real quick, I do want to ask, do you think we could see you on in the future in, say, a few months, see how updates of life are and everything like that?
Sure. I mean, I'd be happy to. Right now, I'm on reclaiming my physical health, because it's like, dude, so just like we talked about the legacy of, changing the family for the mental and emotional aspect of it, right? So for me, this is not how I want to be, like, showing up for my children and grandchildren. I want to see physical, involved, happy activity. I want to be able to get down, wrestle with my grandkids. I don't care how old I am, dude. I still want to be that grandpa that's, 80, 90 years old and, still wrestling with the grandkids or chasing them down the block, So it's like right now I've been doing since November, so almost 6 months ago, a 5K or some kind of running activity per month. And so, first of the year, I experienced like 2 retinal tears in my right eye. I had to walk. Dude, it went through the ringer, Keegan. Like, that was like the neon sign that it's like, I'm not my father, because he ended up, because of his diet and drinking so much hot chocolate, he became diabetic and had his retina detach. And didn't go to the optometrist for 3 months, Keegan.
What?
So in my mind, when that happened, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go blind just like my dad did. All kinds of things. It was just like being right back in the trenches. I am not my father. I'm taking action. You know what I mean? It was a different level of finding who I am and affirming it and proving it. Walking it out differently than my dad did in just avoiding it. Yeah. So now at this point, it's like getting my family involved. We're doing some adventure races, 5Ks. I'm doing a triathlon. Nobody wanted to step up on that one. But, it's like getting them involved to create those memories, because it's like, man, I could be hit by a car. You know what I mean? And I'm gone. But those memories are still there. And I want to live my life today and not wait until the 11th hour, where it's like, I wish 10 years ago I had really done this. There's no time like the present, whether it's your physical, your mental, your emotional, your financial, spiritual, whatever. There's no time like today to start taking action. Even if you thought about doing this a year or 5 years ago, today is the best time to start. So that was what I started looking at in November and have started moving since from there. So
sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck on all of that, and I'm glad that your eye is okay because that would scare the crap out of me.
Oh, it did, Keegan. It did. There was no holding back, man. It was definitely stepping into the ring and being freaked out because it's like, they have to use a laser to reattach it.
Yeah.
It was an experience, not one I want to repeat.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm thinking it's a good thing that you don't want to repeat it.
Yeah.
So.
And there's stuff that I changed in my diet behavior, just as we behave emotionally, it's like, how do we behave physically? And it was that same kind of thing. And so I made changes and started on a path to improving my eye health and health overall. So,
cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another journey, and just like the whole journey with emotional, it is awkward at times. And, I need to set up new habits, and those habits are changing things for me differently, where it's paying dividends, but it's being consistent and showing up. Almost like the commitments that we can make. Like, how many times, Keegan, have we done New Year's resolutions? And dude, they're gone before 21 days, right?
Oh yeah.
But in this, it's like I'm keeping my promise in what I say I'm going to do, which builds my confidence in what I can do. So another journey, another way it shows up. And I encourage guys, just, dude, it's awkward, but keep at it, because that's how it becomes more comfortable and you become, more acclimated to that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. Okay. That's awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. And real quick, your podcast was Living Fearless Today, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And where can people find that?
Whatever your favorite podcast platform is, totally available there. If you want the video, working to get it to where they're uploaded as frequently as the episodes on audio. So YouTube for the video, and audio on your favorite podcast platform.
Awesome. And you're actually taking this podcast idea to the radio, aren't you? For men's mental health?
Yeah. So, and I appreciate it, man. Thank you for mentioning that. That's amazing. So I'm getting ready to launch mensmentalhealth.fm in the month of June, which is Men's Mental Health Month, to go ahead and highlight other podcasts that are hosted by men that have men as guests. So it's men speaking to men about the challenges that we face, the successes that we're experiencing, and how to make that transformation in the areas of personal development, our roles as husbands, fathers, and our physical health. So it's going to, Living Fearless Today is on there, but then there's a slew of other podcasts that are also on there as well. So just kind of, one of those of, hey, you're driving, you're at work, whatever, you've got something to encourage and uplift you and help you see that, hey, there is hope for making that change and experiencing a life other than what you've experienced before.
Yeah, that is way too cool. And we need that in this world, and I thank you for getting it out there. So
Appreciate
I'm going
it.
to make sure, I'm going to make sure that this episode airs before June, so that we make sure that we get it out there, and hopefully tons of people pop on in whenever it all goes on down.
I appreciate it, brother. Keegan, thank you again so much.
Of course.
Dude, I love the fact of you sharing your story and putting it out there and highlighting other people, because it's like, man, together collectively we build that confidence. So you're a key part of that, and I really appreciate all you're doing here, brother.
Well, I appreciate hearing that, and I appreciate you just being on here, because without you, we wouldn't have a show. So, real quick, Mike, do you have any other websites that you want to direct people to, just in case they need to find you for, say, men need some coaching? Where could they find you?
hicoachmike.com. So HICOACHMIKE.com. Like Keegan talked about, if you're looking for, hey, I want to jump on a call and talk, cool. Let's jump and see if it's a fit. If it's not, totally cool, but you'll never know unless you take that first step, and it can be intimidating. It's one of those of, do I really want to do this and begin the journey? But it's like, you never know unless you start. And dude, the first step is always the hardest. Podcast is out there as well. So, dude, yeah, it's one of those of, there's a lot of ways to get to the information, but, whatever works best for you, just, reach out and let's go from there.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thank you very much for being on the show today, and I look forward to speaking to you in the future, because it's going to be interesting to see where you've gone and what all has gone on in the lives of the both of us, and to see what implementations you've come up with in the meantime. And I'd like to see how your other 5Ks, or what other, are you going to do another triathlon maybe?
This is going to be my first one in August, I want to say.
In August, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
In August will be my first one. It's a sprint triathlon. Out of form for me. I didn't just go, hey, what's the highest mountain? I'm going to show up and take it on. It was like, okay, let's start out, dip our toe in the pool. We'll progress from there. But it's a sprint triathlon, so it's still like you're running a 5K at the end of it. But it's, one of my daughters wants to run a full marathon. So this is me showing up with her. She toasted me, dude, just blew me out of the water. 2 of my 3 daughters actually ran it, they both beat me. And I was super proud of them, because I'm like, dang, So, but yeah, this is just the beginning for me. Whether I continue with the triathlon or the adventure race, I don't know, but I do know that I'll be running through next fall for sure, because that's when the full marathon is that we're running. So we're running a 5K, couple 5Ks, 2 halves, and then a full. So,
Sweet.
Preparation kind of thing.
All right. Well, that sounds awesome, and I'm looking forward to hearing the update on that.
I appreciate it, man.
The best of luck. Don't sprain anything too hard, and definitely eat, rest, repeat,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Rest is definitely key. So I appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. Mike, thank you again for being on, and look forward to the future, and all of the audience members out there. Thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. And don't forget to check out Living Fearless Today podcast and the Men's Mental Health radio, right? What was it called again?
Oh, you're good, man. mensmentalhealth.fm.
.fm. That's what it was. I was so close. Well,
that's all good, Keegan. You're doing great. I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you, Mike. And everyone out there, stay tuned next week as we talk to, and I already forgot the name, so just stay tuned next week, and we'll see you then, okay? And as always, much love. Stan. All right.